Hey everybody, Eric here again with another video. I hope you guys liked the last review of the Evangelion, because I'm doing something else. We've already seen the other half of this guy, but this is the Witcher 3 Mcfarlane Toys Eredin from, like I said, the Witcher 3. This guy is, as far as I know, not an exclusive like the Geralt was, and he's the main villain of the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, the game. You know, you can see just first off, this figure has incredible sculpting from far away. Even I can tell. Some things before we start. The paint could be better, and the articulation could be improved upon a little bit. But before we talk too much about that, let's just take a look at the box. So here you have the box for the figure. You can see here it says Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. That's where the figure goes. Sorry for the ring light, guys. There's the stand. You can look at the other video with Geralt to see what it looks like. Eredin, Breac, Glas. Of course, the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. It's basically the exact same thing as the other box. CD Projekt Red. Got a nice photo of Eredin back there. 22 moving points. Parts, articulation, Mcfarlane Toys. CD Projekt Red. Same thing on the other side. Now let's take a look at the figure again. So here I am with a close-up of the figure, and you know, you can see all this incredible sculpted detail on him. Something I didn't notice before, like, you know, from the game, just because, you know, you don't see him that much in the game. Spoiler alert. His armor is based off a lot of, like, bone stuff. Like, his helmet is essentially a skull. And the color of this skull is, honestly, I love this color. It's like a very, very dull gold. And it has a lot of really nice sculpting. You can see some gashes there on the helmet. His whole skull face looks really, really nice. Bunch of chips in the horns on this crown on the top of his helmet. You can see there. And this apart from the rest of the figure, is a very flat color, right? But this gold, this very dull gold, like bronzish gold, has a lot of nice paint detail. You can see I was talking about this bonish armor, right? This is like a rib cage, and underneath it is like more. It looks like skin, honestly. Everything underneath here, if you guys can see that. A very skinish texture, and the color, I mean, looks like, you know, red meat, like red skin meat. You can see more of these little things on here. This medallion, a Wild Hunt medallion. His pauldron over here, soft goods. A lot of really nice sculpted battle-worn detail on this cloak he's got over here. In the back as well. You can see that. It does have a nice little texture to it. You can pick that up in the camera. The back does look like a skull type of thing. Not a skull, I mean a spine. You can see this bone design does carry on to the back. It's funny that they didn't paint this side. I noticed that earlier. His belt. This is actually really nice soft rubber. You can see that. Little nice sculpted stitching detail. A lot of little crosses on here, I think. His gauntlets. Everything is sculpted really well. You can see that. His gauntlet on one side and gauntlet on the other. Same thing. They have a lot. They're sculpted in a lot of battle marks, I think. His hands, you can see a lot of paint variation. There's golds and silvers, and his hands are really nicely painted, battle worn. And it's cool because the joints are at least trying to match the arm color. Go farther down, you can see his legs. Everything is sculpted very nicely. Just a subtle little paint wash, a subtle pinkish paint wash all over this. You can see that. His knees, nice soft rubber. And his feet, which are paint washed very well, you know, and trademark stuff. So that is the details on this Eredin figure. So I put the Witcher, or the Eredin, back here to show off his accessories. And apart from the stand, he does come with this sword. You can see here the sword's name is, I believe, is Havraken. It's Nordic, I think, the way they say it, or Swedish, I'm not sure. But this sword is really, really nice. I like this unique design. It's kind of like, it reminds you of a knife, a gigantic knife with this flat edge with the spike, and then it's segmented right here. I like the way it looks, and it's painted really, really nicely, way better than the Witcher swords. You can see this guard here. It does have, I can definitely tell, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can tell there's paint variation. It's like flat silver dusted with like gold. You can see the red handle right here, the pommel. And like I said earlier, comparing it to the Witcher's silver sword, You can see this sword could have benefited greatly from some paint detail. You can see that 2 swords compared. Sword is way longer. That's what she said. And it does fit into his hands nicely. I usually like to put it into his left hand. Just slots in like, so the hand does fit in, or the sword does fit into his hand just like so. I actually had to do it off screen because it's a little bit hard since the fingers are really tight together, but you know, there it looks. It does go into his hand quite well. His hand just supposed to fit right under this guard right here. It does look really nice. You know, you point him with the sword, a little bit of action pose. Speaking of pose, let's get on to the articulation. So this Eredin figure is quite posable for having so many things on him. Posable to an extent, I say that. Starting with the head, his head goes not very high because of this hairpiece. Not very down, but you can get a little bit of side-to-side action. It is on a ball joint, I can feel it. It's on a ball joint. Shoulders go forward, back, up. He has a swivel at the upper arm right here, and his bicep. You can see that right here. It is swiveling at both parts. He has a single jointed elbow, and the same on this side, but you know, of course, it's hindered by the cloak on the side, you know, about that high, down, and he has an upper bicep swivel right up here, if you guys can see that, along with a single bend at the elbow. You can see that. This is like a floating piece, I think, on top. And the hands do go down, upwards. They do rotate, which allows for movement like this and at an angle. And it rotates on both sides of the joint. He doesn't really have anything in chest articulation like the Witcher. I can tell that it's hollow right here, if you guys can see that squeezing in. But he does seem to have an upper torso joint right here. You guys can see that, upper torso joint. So a little bit forward, a little bit back. Not really a rotation, and a little bit of side to side. See that? Legs do go forward a bit. A little bit hindered by this rubber piece in the back. Back quite a ways out. Little perfect split. He does have an upper thigh swivel, which the Witcher does not have. He does have a single jointed knee, along with a rotation on the foot, which is inhibited. Foot goes down, goes up. A little bit of an ankle pivot and toe joints. Very nice toe joints and very weird shaped feet. So that is the articulation on this Eredin figure. And for a little size comparison, I'm going to put him next to the Witcher, the other figure from this toy line. If he wants to stand, got him next to the Witcher. And you can see they look really good as a pair. He's the main antagonist of the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And they look incredibly well together. They scale very well. It's about the right size. I would say he's about 8 inches. He's a little bit under 7.5 inches. So that's what they look like together. Now let's get on to some final thoughts. This Eredin Breac figure is really, really nice. Honestly, it's better than the Witcher, I think. I think he looks cooler than him. The only thing that's really knocking on this figure is just, or on both of them honestly, is the lack of paint. The sculpt is amazing. You can see all these little details in the body and the skirt, his armor. I mean, look at all this nicely done detail. It's just there's no paint. And if Mcfarlane can get their paint on, then this thing is definitely a hit. Even with the impediments in his articulation, you know, I attribute that just to his sculpt. You know, he's wearing a gigantic suit of armor. Other than that, this figure is honestly really good. Way better than that Evangelion I just reviewed. So guys, I'd like to thank you for your time. Let me know what you guys think, and see you on the next review.